Now to the Nevada Senate debate last night between Harry Reid and Sharon Angle. John Ralston's a columnist for the Las Vegas Sun and host of Face to Face. And Chuck Todd is NBC News chief political director and chief White House correspondent as well. I want to start with John Ralston, but first of all, let's take a look at some of the action. Here's Sharon Angle, the challenger, the Tea Partier, delivering, I think, a cheap shot at the Senate Democratic leader, Harry Reid. Let's listen.
You came from Searchlight to the Senate with very little. Now you're one of the richest men in the U.S. Senate. On behalf of Nevada taxpayers, I'd like to know, we'd like to know, how did you become so wealthy on a government payroll?
Senator Reid.
Mitch, that's really a kind of a low blow. I think most everyone knows I was a very successful lawyer. I did a very good job in investing. So her suggestion that I made money being a senator is simply false, and I'm really disappointed that she would suggest that.
John, is this the new politics? Is this the sleaze way we go? And this is the dirtiest, oldest chick. Well, it's the stuff you do in politics. You play a little number. You say if you made some money off money you've invested, money you had from before, you're stealing.
Well, she's just playing into what a lot of her supporters think.
She's saying he's stealing. She's saying he's a crook.
Yeah, but she's playing into what a lot of her supporters think, which is Harry Reid is corrupt and made all this money. And, Chris, it's patently false. Harry Reid was a millionaire when he was elected to the House in 1982. He had made a lot of money off of real estate in Las Vegas, as a lot of people did at that time. What I'm more amazed by is how Harry Reid looked like Michael Dukakis there. He was so subdued, and when a person calls him corrupt, come back at her and say, give me some evidence. How can you say something like this? Instead, he just, did his usual low-key Harry Reid reaction.
Do you think he's afraid, or he's been badly coached into saying, well, don't look too mean on her. You'll be the troll here. You got to be nice. Did somebody tell him that?
I think there is some of that, and that's true anytime, especially in politics, as you know, Chris, when a man debates a woman. But I have to tell you something about Harry Reid. He's uncoachable. He's proven that time and time again. I don't care how well they prepared him. Yeah. They did not prepare him to answer that question, I bet.
Okay, we know, Chuck, television's visual as well as mental. Sometimes the mental is not as important as the visual. Did she win the visual last night by just being able to belly up, stand up against this senior senator and seem like an equal?
It's hard to sit there and say that she won anything. Her performance was not very good. It's just that his performance was so bad. So
how would you describe his performance?
I guess you have to say that he was inarticulate in the first 15 to 20 minutes. He did eventually get there, but there didn't seem to be a strategy. Look at the way he answered the Supreme Court question. He started talking about how great Scalia was, Whizzer White. This is a man who needs a big Hispanic turnout. Didn't mention Sonia Sotomayor once. Meanwhile, she at least understood her message.
You know what?
And went right after, well, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. Maybe he was tired, but this is your only debate? Your political life is on the line? It was an odd performance.
Politicians who are smart, John, and Chuck, you know the business now, they wait and they take 2 or 3 days off and they get their IQ up as high as they can. It's all about synapses. Do you think you got to think of it then?
Yeah.
You got to think of it then. You got to prep. Dukakis, when he went out there, he couldn't say what he'd do if his wife were killed and raped. Nixon, the smart observer, said he was tired, overscheduled. Anybody with a brain would have known what to say. But that was extremely nice to Mike Dukakis, because he probably would have said the same thing anyway. Here's the schoolyard talk from Sharon Angle. Again, real shooting at this guy. Here she is. Let's listen.
Man up, Harry Reid. You need to understand that we have a problem with Social Security.
Well, she also accused him of saying he wanted Social Security for illegal aliens in the country. Totally illegal, but what do you make of this, John? Is she going to get away with these facts, with being fast and loose with the facts, because she was able to stand up credibly there?
Well, listen, I do think she held her own, and I do agree with Chuck's description of it. She wasn't impressive, but Harry Reid was just so all over the map in his performance. But look at she made many claims in that debate, Chris, that are easily debunked, and Harry Reid made very little effort to call her on it. I mean, she said that she had never called the unemployed spoiled, and said that Harry Reid had mischaracterized that. Chris, she not only said it, she apologized for it, and yet Harry Reid let that go too. I don't know why he would not have called her on that. The Social Security for illegals is in several of her ads, in which she calls Harry Reid the best friend an illegal alien ever had. Catchy line, right? But there's nothing beneath it. All those ads have been debunked by me and others. PolitiFact.
Okay, here's Harry Reid. Here's a case, Chuck, where Harry Reid does challenge her. Here's Sharon Angle defending her ad that claims that Harry Reid voted to give illegal aliens Social Security benefits. And here's what she said and how he responded. Let's listen.
I'm glad to give voters the opportunity to see that Harry Reid has voted to give Social Security to illegal aliens. Not only did he vote to give it to them after they have become citizens, but even before they were citizens, he voted to give them the benefits of our Social Security.
Everything she has said in that ad is false. It's not true. I've never voted for tax breaks for people who are here that are illegal. I've never voted for Social Security benefits for people here. That is not the law in this country. She knows it, and she should stop saying it.
She should. And I checked the objective facts out here. He didn't come out for that, and yet she keeps saying it.
It is amazing how it doesn't matter, and there is no penalty this year for some reason for when it doesn't matter how many media say this is wrong, this is factually incorrect. It's not as if it's illegal to put up a TV ad. I mean, I guess you can file a grievance and say you have to pull this TV ad because it is false in this way. And
well, isn't it the job of moderators to know something? I guess that's a tough job for moderators, John. I guess in real time it's hard to pull out an immediate, like in one of those old quiz shows, you know, it's academic or something where they know the answer because they don't know what the question's going to be. But do you think the moderators or the people holding these debates have some responsibility to check the facts, John?
Well, of course they do, Chris, but the problem is in this debate, the format was so restrictive, it was difficult. The moderator did follow up a couple of times, but they were told to stick to this strict format, which is what, by the way, both candidates, I think, wanted, because they both knew that they're not very good in this venue. Now, you know, the question about whether there's a penalty for this kind of behavior or not, I guess we're going to find out, right? I mean, we don't know yet whether or not there's a penalty for it. Listen, what more can anybody do? But the problem is, how many people watch a fact check on TV versus how many people saw the ad that said the best friend an illegal alien ever had?
Well, give us a tout on this. It seems to me, looking at this from the outside, you got an incumbent who isn't popular. You have a challenger who's a bit far out, if not wacky. Do the viewers, the voters, I call people who watch my show viewers, do the voters say, I don't care how strange she is, I'm taking a chance on somebody new rather than what I got? Is that going to be the end of this election, how it comes out?
Well, I think if people were watching that debate, and listen, I think there's very few undecideds left in that race, 1%, 2%, 3%, maybe. If they're watching that, they're watching to see if Sharon Angle is as crazy as Harry Reid has portrayed her, right?
Yeah.
And she didn't really come across that way. So I think if there were undecideds watching, that's a big if, I think they might gravitate toward Angle.
Is that your sense?
Look,
watching it from here?
There's a two-pronged strategy here for Reid, right? Number one is he can try to see if he can gin up his numbers on the ground
with a GOTV,
with a little bit of a get-out-the-vote effort. And the second is hope that he moves some anti-Reid vote to none of the above, asking one of these third-party candidacies. And that's who Sharon Angle was up against last night, right? Which was it's the winning over the anti-Reid voter that's not yet sold on her. What are they going to do? Did she do enough to keep them away from none of the above? So I have to say, the laws of politics are running against Harry Reid. I still believe if Harry Reid wins, it's an upset because of the laws of politics.
Which are always, you got to get 50%.
You got to be sitting at 50. The wind's going at the back. Everything.
Okay, so the smart move by her strategist, and perhaps with her participating, John, give this guy one debate so that you can show that you can stand up there and meet him back and forth. But don't give him too many debates because at some point his expertise will overwhelm her.
Well, I don't know. After last night, maybe she should have debated him 10 times. I'm not so sure about that, Chris. But Chuck's absolutely right. I mean, the Harry Reid strategy from a year ago was he knew he's never going to get close to 50%. He knew his disapproval rating was 50%. He had to do scorched earth from the primary on to push those people, as Chuck mentioned, from Sharon Angle to none of the above, Scott Ashton. There are 9 choices on the ballot. He's hoping people will be confused, vote for somebody else. It's the only chance he has.
By the soft approach by him, it reminds me of Henry Cabot Lodge calling Dick Nixon up right before his debate with Kennedy saying, erase the assassin image. Yeah. And he went real soft on Kennedy. He kept saying, I agree with the senator, I agree with the senator, I agree with the senator. It was embarrassing. If he'd gone after him like the old Nixon that would have taken on Adlai Stevenson, took on Alger Hiss, took on all his earlier opponents like Helen Douglas, he would have killed the guy. But he didn't. And he lost. You got to play your toughest game in the toughest battle. That's what I think. Thank you, Chuck. You agree?
There it is.
Thank
it's
you,
your
John.
show.
Thank you.
I'm in your house. What am I? Right? No, I agree. All right, John.
What a politician.
Anyway, we're all politicians.
Love my man Ralston.
John
Ralston, thank you, sir. It's great.
Go Blue.
It's great to have an expert out here.